Hi, Naz here again. So I hope you enjoyed the video about me telling the story about my first period, and I hope you enjoyed Kevin's as well. Again, like I just want to clarify, I don't really enjoy having my period. I'm not like I'm not like, yeah, I got my period, I'm gonna have a great week. Um, it's just I really just love the fact that I can share my experience with other women and kind of reclaim that part of being a female. So it's pretty awesome. Um, this video that I'm going to do now, I think is more like a precursor to future videos. So kind of setting the tone of things that I'd like to talk about in the next coming weeks, hopefully. And they all, I think, have to do with a lot of issues about racist sexism and sexist racism that exists in both Western society and sorry, both in North American culture and in Indian culture, and Indian Punjabi culture specifically. Um, so especially when it comes to culture, I think it's a very complicated word, and it's hard to define what your culture is. It's not as easy as saying that, like, I don't think it's as easy as saying that, oh, because you're born in a certain area, that is your culture, that is who you are. It's far more complex than that. It depends on, like, I think about where you're raised, the environment you're in, and different influences you take on, and I think that's very unique to each individual. Um, in my own experience, I don't really know how to define my culture yet because in most situations, as an immigrant in Canada, coming here at a really young age, I felt like an outsider in most situations, whether it was feeling like an outsider in a predominantly white school, feeling like an outsider even among other Indian kids, feeling like an outsider in most social groups, in most economic groups, and it just again like not really feeling like I belong to any sort of pre-constructed category. And I'd like to explain that further in a different video. But in this video, I'd like to talk about something that Pavan and I were talking about earlier today. So Pavan and I are both Punjabi Sikhs, and we were just talking about the the incredibly violent oppression women face in Punjabi culture, and how we can move towards getting over that and kind of starting to at least make steps towards a less like a completely oppression free culture. Um, and again, we're speaking specifically about Punjabi culture because we are both Punjabi girls. Um, and before I say that, like, I do want to clarify that North American culture has a lot of shit to own up to as well, for enforcing oppressive, uh, oppressive society. I feel like in situations like this, it's so easy to blame a so-called minority culture in Canada and not take ownership of the shit that really Western society came up with as well. So before you go ahead and be like, oh yeah, there are those that culture from the third world country, of course they'd be oppressive and whatever. Please check your privilege at the door, and you know look at Western society too. Um, but yeah, this is a video specifically, I think, just briefly introducing the stuff that we've noticed happening in Punjabi culture, and hopefully Kat can build on it more. So it's really fairly evident and obvious that in Punjabi culture, women are assumed and confined to very female specific roles. I mean, whether they be roles in the household, getting married, having kids, those roles are are not only expected of women but forced on women, and through arranged marriages, through abuse, and just forcing women into these pre-constructed roles. And really, sometimes even when you want to fight it and you want to push it away, it's like that power is almost taken away from you to really have control of your own life, and really have control over what role you want to have, and constructing your own role in the life that you have. So you know, I think I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get a lot of shit for saying this, but like women are really forced to do. I think women more than men are really forced into certain roles. I mean, when it comes to marriage, I think there's a lot more pressure and force put on women to get married, to get into the right arranged marriage and have those kids and have that family and maybe work a full-time job, but also maintaining the household and doing all the household chores, and that the sharing of the household duties. It's I haven't seen it yet, but and that's something I've noticed, and I'm just speaking again in really general terms because I don't think that YouTube or the internet is a very fair platform to completely throw individuals that I know and individuals in my family and my relatives under the bus, because I don't think it's a let's blame the individual kind of thing. I think it's a culture that we need to be holding accountable right now. But that's what I think that we need to start moving towards, is holding a culture accountable for some of the shit that happens. And so I've talked about the roles that women are confined to, and even as a young Punjabi girl, like I feel like these roles are slowly being, are creeping up on me in different, more evolved ways. And again, maybe I need to do another video showing, like explaining how those kind of roles and those expectations have shifted and kind of grown into the context of Western culture, but the underlying theme is still there, where you are a girl and you need to be doing certain things with your life. And when oppressive structures evolve, they almost seem like they're being progressive and that they're being liberal, but really they're just awarding you concessions. But the system of oppression still exists, and you're still being controlled. But you think like, oh, because I get to have a job now as a female. Oh, that must be really progressive. But no, you still have to do all the household duties and get married and have kids and all that shit, I guess. And I'm really sorry if I offended anyone by saying all that shit too, because some people want that, and that's completely noble, and I think that's really fair for people to want that as well. But again, it has to be a choice, and that choice is ultimately what's taken away from women. The thing that I really wanted to talk about is the abuse that women face in our culture that's completely silenced and pushed under the rug. Women, I think, are frequently sexually abused, physically abused, mentally abused, verbally abused, pressured and forced to do things that they don't really want to do, and that kind of really like in your face, like really visible abuse is not at all talked about, and it's very much silenced and pushed under the rug, and we act like it almost doesn't exist, as if the word abuse doesn't even exist sometimes. And we kind of live on pretending like that stuff doesn't even happen, and it doesn't get talked about in families. The thing is, when it does happen, it's so clear that who gets the blame, who's made responsible for the situation, and who has to bear all the shit. It's always the girl. And I'm talking like about situations and where there's been sexual abuse and rape and physical abuse, like traumatizing violence that men have inflicted on women as means of power and as means of controlling women. The woman is always blamed. The woman is always told to shut up about it and be quiet about it, and yeah, and it's so like frustrating is an understatement. Like it just has to stop. Like we don't talk about it, and then we just blame the girl. The girl gets blamed for the divorce. The woman gets blamed for the kids don't end up being what people wanted. If the kids don't end up meeting the expectations, the woman gets blamed. The woman gets blamed for again, like a failed marriage. The woman gets blamed for the abuse. The woman is blamed for the rape, and there's no accountability, no responsibility from the guy or from the aggressor and the abuser. And that needs to stop. And I think women in Punjabi culture sometimes add to that by attacking each other and, enforcing. Sorry, again, my computer stopped almost going blank, but it's back again. But going back to the idea of a women, enforcing that kind of oppressive structure on each other and like pushing that on each other, and mothers telling their daughters to not talk about things and be quiet about certain things and blaming their daughters for things that have happened that they can't control. That I think really women need to start supporting each other in our culture, start looking to each other, and start, you know, helping each other and being there for each other, and being that emotional support and being that physical support, and really banding together and telling men that this is not acceptable. This kind of power and domination and force on women is is bullshit, and this is not the kind of society that we have to live in, and this is not the kind of world that we have to live in. But yeah, so I guess this is just like an intro video into that. I'd love to hear some thoughts. I'd love to hear some criticism, and I'd love to hear some stories. And again, because this is such a specific to this context, I'd like to hear things from other Punjabi girls, like what they think and what they feel, because I feel like when it comes to oppression, in 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 a lot of Indian cultures, in terms of systems of different systems of oppression, like patriarchy, homophobic oppression, racism, and even like I guess religious oppression too. That the way we've been dealing with it in India, and the way I don't know about it. Like I can sorry, no, I take that back. I don't know what it's like in India. I know what it's like in Canada. The way that's been dealt with in Canada, I feel is we don't talk about it and we push it under the rug and we act like it doesn't happen and it doesn't exist. So yeah, I'd like to get other people's thoughts on it, and I hope that that we can get past this, starting with supporting each other and building a more unified culture among women. I really think women have to get together, and I feel like Captain Obvious saying that, but it's something that just feels like it hasn't happened yet, and I'm wondering when it's gonna happen. So yeah, thank you.